Welcome to the PitchVision Academy cricket show. It's your guide, of course, to better cricket. You might be a player, you might be a coach, but the main thing is we're here to help you out for a little while. My name's David Hinchliffe. I look after things here. And helping me to help you is the head of cricket performance at Portsmouth Grammar School. It's Sam Lavery. Hello, Lavers. How's it going?
Very well, thanks. Very well. Yeah, just we're into winter cricket, all very busy, and enjoying it. It's been a really good start to the winter programme. So good start so far, and lots of work going on.
Yeah, it's a funny old time, isn't it? Where we go indoors to play the outdoor sport, but we do what we can. We work with what we've got, and I guess in a lot of ways, it's a nice thing to have those sort of constraints on you, isn't it? There's only so much you can do, so you can really focus in on certain things.
Yeah, sometimes limitations do focus you up a little bit, and you can pinpoint a few specific things you'd like to do, and equally sometimes when you're presented with limitations you're not used to, it does bring out something different, and it presents a different situation, not only for you to coaching, but the boys and girls to playing as well. So that can develop to a bit of different learning around the cricket as well. So I think it's a pretty productive time. Actually, we get loads done. That there are certain things that we can't get done quite so easily, so they maybe take a back seat until we can get outside and the light's a bit better. But it's an opportunity to really focus in on a few specifics, and that's what we're aiming to do at the moment. And by the look of it so far, a lot of the guys have responded pretty well to the first couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Yeah. It's a similar situation here. I'm in sports halls and indoor nets, and we're just sort of getting to know each other, and the players are starting to form a team, and we haven't done too much intense cricket stuff really at all at the moment. One group, under 14s group, have barely picked up a cricket bat in the last 3 weeks, so they'll be pleased, I think, on Sunday when it's their turn to actually do some cricket stuff. Quite
nice sometimes, though, isn't it? Just try and just increases the appetite sometimes, doesn't it? Just when you take people away from it, and they want to get on with it, and they see other people getting on with it, and it just elevates the appetite to get back into it, and to really get some hard work done, enjoy playing the game however you want to kind of turn it and whatever they need to do. But it does increase appetite sometimes, just having a few restrictions on how much training you can do.
I wanted to talk a little bit about adversity this week. So in the ideal world, of course, we have, everything goes very, very smoothly, but the ideal world doesn't exist. And many times in life, we have lots of different types of adversity. And there's been some research done into this by psychological researchers into the effects of adversity on Olympic athletes, very, very high performing sportsmen and women, of course. And what this research found, which has some interesting implications, so I thought we could talk about that, is what this research found is in almost every case, the most successful athletes were the ones who went through some kind of great adversity in their life. And that can be lots of different things. It can be adversity, of course, in terms of, getting dropped or losing important competitions in a sporting context, but it can also be adversity on a much wider scale. It can be things like a bereavement, or struggles because you're from a country which are having political troubles. So there's a whole broad range of things which cause sort of stress on you. And the response of the best players, the best athletes, is to improve themselves within their sport, within their game, within their activity. So I guess what the implication is for coaches is that adversity is something that A, we have to deal with, and B, it's something that can turn out to be positive even in the most negative of situations. So in terms of the coach's role within adversity, both sporting and non-sporting, where do you see that, Lavers?
Well, I guess one of the things you're there for as a coach is you are a part of a support network which is going to help manage an individual through something that's obviously not been a good time in their life, and you could say obviously that could be a sporting issue that's cropped up, a personal issue where it's an injury or whatever it might be, or something, as you've said, a little bit wider within the family. And I guess depending on the nature of that circumstances, depending on how actively involved you are and how much you're taking a lead on the recovery process, or more just in the background and available, and for some people who have gone through that kind of bereavement thing, you're probably more of a background member where you're there, and possibly you're a good distraction at times, and having some cricket away from it takes you away from the environment which maybe is a difficult one to be in. So that cricket can be some nice relief at times, but equally there are going to be a lot more things going on in the background, and you can sometimes be someone that they want to talk to because you're a different face, you're a different individual. Equally, you might just be you might not be involved at all in those kind of things. So in that scenario, you're probably taking a slightly lesser role, or less of a driving force behind it. Whereas if you were in the position of injury, then you're probably going to play a bigger role in terms of rehabbing or liaising with people involved in the rehab, or then reconstructing someone technically if there's an adjustment that needs to be made. So you may well find that you're playing a leading role in that capacity. So I guess the terms of the adversity or the terms of the problem are going to dictate the coach's role in the recovery from it, and your own knowledge and experience, and the role of coach that you play is also going to be relevant. But I think you're always going to try and have some role, or going to make yourself accessible wherever you can, and you're probably, regardless of how technically cricket it is, or how far away from cricket it is, you're probably going to try not to impose yourself on that person in either situation. You're just going to try and make them know that you're aware and this is what you can offer them, and if they choose to take you up and utilise your skill or support, whatever it might be, then you're there. And if they don't, then they don't, and they're going to go and pursue it their own way, which again could be just as valuable a way for them to work themselves through whatever the issue had been.
And the relationship with the player then is so important. That individual player is so important, because you can sort of, it's very easy to sort of slip into the coach player role and never anything more than that. But if you know someone, if you get on with someone, if you have a real sort of strong relationship with someone, you can have a better involvement with them, whatever that adversity happens to be. And that way, it's not even really then a coach and a player. It's more of a, just a person and a person. So there are times, when you have better relationships with people, when you can be more helpful than other times when perhaps you have a little bit more of a coach-player style relationship and you don't know them quite as well and all the rest of it. So there are different times where there can be more or less of that. And the other thing that a lot of people have interpreted this adversity research is about saying that, well, we have to build adversity into our training sessions. We have to make things hard for players. We have to make them suffer, because through suffering you improve, and we know that because all these Olympians have suffered in all these different ways. So therefore, if I build that in and if I make it incredibly hard for them and make them really suffer, then that's going to be a way for them to become more successful at their cricket. But I think morally, I think even on the level of just making someone do sprints until they collapse, even if you don't go down the road of non-cricket related adversity, I think morally that's not the way to do things. Certainly not these days. Where it's about relationships and developing skill, and it's not about let's see how much we can make somebody suffer.
Yeah. Also, if you kind of compare or consider the differences between the sports, Olympic sports are, and I know Olympic sports is a very broad term, but I would imagine a lot of them are often sports that where hard work kind of wins out, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying it doesn't in cricket, but if you look at the sort of success that has come from cricketers if anything, opportunity has created success rather than adversity, or that might be the kind of perception of it, that opportunity to do things is what's at the forefront rather than just having something that's gone wrong. And not to say that adversity doesn't add greater kind of impetus to it, but I would suggest that may not be exactly the same as if you were to compare it to a runner or a rower or somewhere where you probably don't have as much relationship or as much conversation through extended parts of the coaching process, and it's more of a case of, in Gareth's terms, getting on with it and getting your head down and working very, very hard, and perhaps the skills or the technical side of it or whatever it might be, the processes in there are a little bit simpler. However, the standards that are required are extremely high, so you do get sports that are lowish on the skill radar, but because of that you have to be extremely high on the commitment and performance side of things, where there are other sports that you can get quite high if you can achieve a high skill level. So people aren't necessarily absolutely maximising their own personal abilities, but they're still at quite a high level because the skill level required to them is so high anyway. So there is a difference there between some sports. But again, that's me interpreting Olympic sports as the kind of those classic athletic events, whereas actually Olympic sports cover a whole host of things, and with all sorts of different things coming in there every year, there is a wide range. So that's probably just being a little bit too narrow-minded, I think.
It may be, but regardless of that, I think the important thing, it comes back down to what is your relationship with the player? How can you best help them? And if that's purely down to if someone's got injured and you're helping them come back from injury, and the best way of sort of bringing them back in the way that's going to help them the most, then that's it. That's all you need to do. If it's more than that, if it's kind of emotional sport and things like that, those things are still on the table if you've got the right kind of relationship with those people. So I think that's what it really boils down to, is you don't create adversity, but if adversity comes along, you're the one who is part of the support team that helps people out. I think you said that right at the beginning, didn't you, Lavis?
And I think we all know people who, and we've all probably been in the team where there's one person that, whether we call it adversity, but there's one person that really needs a kick up the backside and a bit of a roasting, whereas another person needs a bit more of a gentle approach to them to get the best out of them. So again, as you've said, relationships and knowing the people you're working with, understanding what gets the best out of them and understanding what they need to do to reach the goals that they want to reach is what you need to, and that only comes from spending time with them and talking to them and understanding what makes them tick and what's going to help them achieve their goals, which is, I guess, one of the main things we're there for, is to support them get to where they want to go.
Speaking of support, let's answer some questions now, some cricket coaching questions, so we can get on to a little bit more of a cricket track than we have been talking about. And the way this works is that people who are listening to the show, perhaps that's even you, dear listener, they can send in their questions, and we answer those questions as best we can, and we pick a question of the week that wins a prize of an online coaching course from PitchVision Academy at pitchvision.com. And that's what Amrit's done. Amrit has a question, and he says, I'm a wicketkeeper batsman, and I'm finding it hard to open and be keeper for the full game. I play 50 overs. How do I get fitter to do the job?
Well, it is a tough job, isn't it? And lots of people have tried to do it over the years, and first of all, I guess what you're hoping for is win the toss and bat, so you get in there and bat first of all, and then you don't have to.
Well, unless you score 180 not out.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I remember having a similar conversation with a keeper about this last season, and he did exactly that. We talked about what he could do to try and recover a little bit more in between times, just try and relax and use the opportunity between innings not to go around and be too busy and not to overdo the warm-up and not that kind of thing, because he was very, very tired. And then he did exactly that. I think he batted for 42 of the 50 overs batting first, so he then batted first and then went to have the gloves on straight away. So it's very, very difficult, and obviously that toss bit is beyond your control. First of all, it sounds like you're committed to opening the batting, so obviously playing a very important role in the side as opening batsman and keeper. So that's, it's great to see that you've got a prominent position within the side. I'd be thinking about what types of fitness are you actually needing to require here, and the obvious bit would be you need to increase your stamina, but also it's kind of that repeated power, because as a batter or a keeper, it is a series of power events or powerful events, whether they are jumps, small sprints, decelerations, accelerations, hitting a ball, diving, etc. It's largely power based. So yes, I'd be looking to increase that kind of aerobic base anyway, and make sure that you have like the basic fundamental stamina to last a period of time. But equally, I'd be looking to try and test that repeated power and look at ways of stressing your body that way in your training time, and also make sure that when you are approaching match day, you're also extremely well rested into it, and you're not training into Friday particularly with anything strength or endurance based, at least anyway. So use your opportunities in the winter as well as you can, so get as big a base under you as you can there, and that would be trying to recreate the activities. So I know people will go out and they'll do long runs and things like that, and that's good for the base part of it, but putting yourself in that position where you're going to go and you're going to run a 3, then you're going to walk a 1 and run a 3, walk a 1, and that's the great for that repeated explosive power that comes from running between the wickets and batting for a long time. And similarly, think about the movements you're going to have in keeping. So there's going to be lots of squatting, there's going to be lots of jumping, there's going to be lots of side to side movement. Again, it's going to fatigue you, but it's all short and sharp. So can you have repeated short and sharp sessions or high intensity sessions that you then repeat over and over again, that are going to hopefully tune your body to be able to reproduce power or maintain power for a longer period of time, rather than just having the ability to tick over at low speed, which really isn't going to serve you quite so well given the job you're going to be in. I know you've kept wicket for a number of years, Dave. How would you go about approaching this type of thing?
Well, there's a lot of factors here. We don't know how old he is, and we don't know how long he's been doing it, and there's how many games he plays, things like that. But the way that I used to do it was early season, I would just keep as much as I possibly could, because the keeping was the thing that tired me out. The batting, I didn't score big scores very often, to be honest with you, so it wasn't a huge problem. But when I did open the batting and keep wicket, which I have done a few times, if I did get a decent score, then it's really the keeping that is more of the problem, I think, than the batting. So I always think that if you can, at the very least, feel like that that you're going to be able to do 300 squats, you feel like you've got that in you, then the rest will sort of follow by itself. So just, the very old-fashioned advice of doing a lot of wicket keeping, because you don't have to worry so much about it. Like a bowler, you obviously have to worry about the impact and the strain on your joints and all that kind of thing. So you have to be careful how much you bowl. But with wicket keeping, you just keep wicket as much as you can, practice as much as you can, keep in as many games as you can, and see if you can build up those levels of stamina, and then combining it with the things that you're talking about there, Lavers. I always think that the fitness work sort of counters out what you're doing, the damage that you're doing in the on the field. So with bowlers it's slightly different, but with wicket keepers, if you're doing a lot of squatting by playing cricket, then you probably want to do a lot of stuff which is kind of the opposite of squatting. So, deadlifting, perhaps the deadlifting style movements, and, upper body stuff, things that you don't necessarily cover off when you're playing. And then, that's the kind of gym work, the fitness work, if you like. And then, get some overs in your legs, as we say to the bowlers, get working hard, and be prepared for a while to especially, there's no way around it. If you score 100 and then you have to go out immediately and keep wicket for 50 overs in 35-degree maximum humidity, it's not going to be fun. And that's where you've got to have the sort of the psychological makeup, which all wicket keepers do, by the way. Otherwise, they wouldn't be wicket keepers. Just to keep plugging through, get through it. The more you do it, the easier it gets, but it'll never be easy.
The other thing I'd throw in there as well, thinking about it, is I think it's always good to just video yourself keeping. And from a technical point of view and from an energy consumption point of view, have a look at, are there things you do which you can be just snipping out of your routine. So in your routine, do you walk in, do you squat down early? Do you hold that squat for 10 seconds rather than 1 second? Do you go down and bounce and squat up and down 2 or 3 times before adopting that squat position? Are you wasting an amount of energy each time, which if that is one small little bit of energy but times by 300 deliveries, that could have a big impact in the extent of the game. So have a look at your movements. Obviously you can look at some keepers, and like Dhoni's pretty cautious with his movement. He doesn't overexert himself, and you'll see that in the way he moves around. And it doesn't. I'm definitely not saying be lazy, or he would be lazy in any kind of way, but economy of movement is something that's really, really valuable for a keeper who has so much to do throughout a game, whether it's a 50 over game or a longer game than that. So film yourself, whether it's in a training environment or probably better in a match environment, and just see if you can get a few overs footage of the kind of things you do, maybe up to the stumps and back from the stumps, and just see if you can streamline that movement you have and hopefully save a little bit of energy along the way. If the batting bit does become an issue for you, and I probably agree that there's going to be more done in the keeping side of things, but if the batting thing does become an issue for you as well, and you find you get tired when you get into your 20s or 30s when you do score runs, and beyond that, try and recreate, in the days you don't score runs, try and recreate the kind of intensity that you would have if you had score runs. So if you nick off for none and you don't actually have to do any activity with the bat, maybe get out there and do your sprints, just so you are conditioning your body to do those things, even though you've not scored the runs. You're still getting 40 sprints in, or 100 sprints in, or whatever you term as the kind of number that would be relevant to you. So yeah. That would be another thing there, but definitely have a look at your economy of movement and see if there's any little bits of movement you can snip off to try and save some energy throughout the session.
Yeah. And also psychologically, you always have more energy than you think. If your team are taking wickets, and suddenly you're not tired anymore. If some pie thrower comes on and starts chucking down long hops and half volleys, and you're smashing it all over the place, suddenly that fatigue is much less than it used to be. So there's always more in the tank. It's just that the brain's trying to preserve it as much as it can. So, but if you can keep that in mind and then build up that stamina over time, then that'll see you in good stead, definitely.
Good shout.
Next question's from James, and this is a classic one, I think. I see this one on the internet all the time. So let's talk about it in general terms. So James says, which bat should I buy? How do I know what is a good bat? Welcome, Gareth, to the show. Last minute arrival.
Better late than never. Sorry, apologies for my tardiness, gentlemen and listeners.
Yeah, well, welcome, Gareth. So you were telling us you've got a decent bat.
I've got a decent bat. Yeah, it's.
What if James can't afford it?
If James can't afford it, then I think we've spoken about this before. But I was once with an international cricketer who plays for Australia, who went into his bat sponsor's big showroom. And they opened up a cupboard which had all of the really, what they perceived as being the really brilliant bats, the bats that were for the top players that were on their books. And he went through every one of those. He picked them up. He closed his eyes, waved them around, put them into two piles. One that he wasn't interested in because it didn't feel right. One that he felt had potential and felt pretty good in his hand, because ultimately the bat really should be an extension of yourself when you're batting, so it doesn't become a distraction. It's just something that flows really off of the back of your body movement. So he wanted that to be the case. And then he tapped some balls up on it. And then when he'd been through, I think he had 5 bats that he put away to one side that he was interested in. Once he'd tapped them, he put them all away and he said, no, none of those feel quite right or sound quite right. The combination isn't right. So then he went to the front of a shop, which is where we would go, isn't it? It's where I'd go to go and get my bat nowadays. And most people that listen to the show would probably go to. And he picked up did the same process, and he picked up 2 bats, both of which came from what would probably be described by the company as the mid-range club bat. And he really liked the way that it felt in the hand. And then he tapped the ball up on it, and he took away one of their sort of bargain basement mid-range bats, much to their horror. So then they had to get the stickers of that off, because it obviously reflected what range it came from. Take the stickers off and put the stickers on of the bat that his name has got a signature underneath. So going back to his story, I think it's about feel. Because obviously a bat is so important when you're out in the middle to it to be a part of your being. So instead of going, what bat should I get? The answer is you need to pick up a load. And that obviously means that getting them off the internet is slightly fraught, isn't it, with a bit of pot luck, really. And whilst a bat can say 2.9, I think we all know when we've picked up 2.9 bats that some can feel appreciably lighter, some can feel appreciably heavier, some have got a better sound off the bat. So to me, you can't ever get away from the fact that you go to a company or you go to a shop and just pick a boatload of bats up, because unless you're doing that, you're really buying a lottery ticket every time you do it online, in my humble opinion.
I would definitely agree that a lot of the decision making comes to how it feels in your hand. You've got to be confident. You don't want to be thinking about the bat, and as Gareth says, an extension of your arms or your hands or whatever. And if you're out there and you're thinking that this doesn't feel comfortable, this is too heavy, or this is too light, or you're trying to focus on how hard you could swing it because of how it feels, then you're already at a disadvantage, and you're already going to be wasting energy on that when you should just be focusing on the ball. So I'd certainly be thinking about that. In terms of the types of wood you're going to see, I've seen lots of people at very high level particularly seek out different types of wood in terms of the grain. And I know some people who would specifically want a bat that had a good 12, 13, 14 grains across that are all nice and straight, whereas other people I know feel that the bat looks bigger when there are only 4 or 5 grains across there and it looks a bit chunky, and to them it gives them that confidence. But it seems to be that for all of them it always comes back to what makes them feel confident, rather than what the ball does off the bat, apart from a quick bounce up and down. So how that feels is if how that feels is the key kind of ingredient. Going off the internet's not going to help you, because you've got no chance unless you're willing to send them back and forth for a couple of months. You're going to be there a while. So I would definitely say go to a bat maker, go to a shop where there are a good 50, 60, 70 bats in your kind of price range that you can look at, and just spend some time there, pick them up. Don't look too much into the stickers, although I bet Gareth's bat for £1,000 has got some good stickers on it, so maybe you want to have a look at that one. But yeah, but generally, yeah, close your eyes. Which one feels good? Which one's going to be the right weight, the right feel for you? I was particularly picky on kind of the handle and how the handle felt more than the rest of the bat. But everyone's going to have their own preference on what feels good for them. So yeah, I'd get out there. Don't commit to you have to buy one day. If you're needing a new bat soon, if you can afford to do it, start looking around early and start going to a few different shops or different factories and seeing what you can lay your hands on.
There is a probably apocryphal story, isn't there, about Dennis Compton turning up to a match at Lord's, and he was still in last night's dinner jacket, so he just popped on some whites, borrowed a bat, out he went, scored 100. Now, I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but even if it isn't, I do think that whole point about feel and how it has to feel right and has to give you confidence. It's pretty much all of it is in the head. It's all about you. It's not all about the piece of wood, really. You pay a decent amount of money for a bat, it's going to be a good bat, and if you're a decent player, you're going to be able to use it. So then it's down to very, very, very fine points of feel and confidence. So while I wouldn't want to undermine that with anyone, I would also want to say to people that you don't obsess about it. Don't obsess too much about the absolute perfect bat, this one or that one. If you can bat, then you can bat with almost anything, and if you have a decent bat, however it picks up, you probably do all right. So I've always been of the school of just hand me a bat and I'll have a go with it. I wasn't necessarily much of a batsman, to be honest, but I don't think I would have been much better if I'd have been super precious about the blade or spent twice as much money on one.
Certainly, David Garaway, I played a couple of games with him and was around him for a year, right at the back end of his career, in fact his last year of playing. And he had what I perceived as being some of the worst cricket bats that I've ever picked up in my entire life. And the one occasion that I batted with him, he absolutely breezed it around the park, timed the pants off of it with these horrible Open Championship, disgusting cricket bats. And me with my absolutely magnificent Hunts County bat Reflex, which was a gun.
Great bat.
Struggled to get Curtly Ambrose anywhere other than sort of third man, really. So yeah, that was the way that one worked. So I'm with you on that to a point, but then again, David Gower was a relatively good player and certainly significantly better than his batting partner on that given day. That is for sure. Yeah, so I get that.
I've just Googled Open Championship cricket bat, and there's not very much on there. So I think a moment's silence for the Open Championship bats.
Their soft gear was very good. I like their soft gear. The Willow was, it didn't quite cut the mustard from unless you're David Gower, of course.
Of course. Well, yeah. You give him a plank of wood, he'd still probably score 39.
Oh yeah. Paul Terry also used him as well, and again, I mean, he was such a good player. Paul, PT was a legend, so he used to make it look relatively easy as well, and like the rest of us. So, so I get where you're coming from on that, David.
Oh yeah. But I also understand that people like to sort of obsess about these things, and they enjoy the feeling of control that they get from choosing exactly the right bat. But you can very easily take it too far. And it's perfect for the internet. People just love that kind of thing on the internet. Shall I get the Power Cross 4700 or the Ultra Bow 1230? Which one's better for my style of batting? Doesn't matter.
That really doesn't matter. Just try and middle it. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
And that is just as he's arrived. The show's ending, Gareth. So sorry for that, but time has ticked on. We've got to get on with the rest of our lives. So we're going to head off. But before we do that, we need to decide on a winner of the competition this week, the online coaching course from PitchVision Academy at pitchvision.com. And the two questions were Amrit's question about how does he open the batting and keep wicket, and James's question about the best cricket bat to buy. Which one did you prefer, Gareth?
I'm going to go with Amit's wicket-keeping one. I'm a bit biased on that, and it's not easy, and that's why very few people have done it in 50-over cricket, being able to open the batting and do it, because of the mental, I think, as much as the physical, the mental fatigue that you pick up over the course of a long day and always being in it. So yeah, I'm with him on that one, and good luck in your quest to do both skills to the top of your ability, mate.
Congratulations. And you can send in questions to us for future shows, of course, and that's very easy to do. Gareth, if someone wanted to get in touch, how could they do that?
They could give us a call on 0203 239 7543 or drop us an email on coach@pitchvision.com.
That's right. You can also get us on various social media platforms. Pitchvision.com is your first port of call there. Do a search for the PitchVision Academy account. You'll find us there and you can send us a message. Or you can do it on Facebook, facebook.com/PitchVision Academy, or Twitter @PitchVision Acad. You can listen to this show every week. If you want to do a search for PitchVision Academy in your favourite podcast app, you'll find us in there. Or you can find us on Facebook. Actually, we put the show onto Facebook every week as well, and also onto pitchvision.com/academy, where you can find all the old shows, download it, stream it from there as well. So there's plenty of places to get the show every week. And that is all for this week. We hope you listen next week, but until then, have a good week. Cheers, Gareth. Cheers, Lavers.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers, fellas.